So something has to start, and I believe probably starting with the environment and ending with research makes the most sense. Because if I was talking about research first, you would learn about something but in a very abstract way, versus now I'm going to talk about the environment and how important it is. And the importance of the environment is eventually to come up with some ideas and strategies. But then to come up with good ideas and strategies, you need a good analysis of the environment. And to do a good analysis of the environment, you need to do good research. So that's sort of how I'm going to try to dial this circle from the environment to the strategies to research, and then looping back the research is therefore to research the environment to come up with good strategies and so forth. So this is my way of understanding it. There's hundreds of textbooks that are the most popular, and they all use the same concept at the beginning of their textbooks, but in the different order. And because it's a textbook, maybe they don't have the opportunity, because it's not live like I'm doing right now, to cover these by giving you the overlaps. But the overlaps is what's interesting. The overlaps is the reality. So the thing that I care the most, and as I've started teaching in 95, my trajectory has been trying to become more and more realistic for the students, versus a professor who's very textbook literate and try to engage the students in becoming a textbook person. If you're doing business, if you're doing something practical, you got to be much more realistic. And that's very much what I will try to inject in this class. Before I start, anyone has any questions on the syllabus or the...
Yeah. Hey, Professor, good morning.
Yes. Hi, good morning.
I did have one
yes.
question regarding the presentations on Tuesday. So yes. In the email, I don't know if you like sent similar tips to every group, but in our group in particular, you wanted us to kind of like dive into like personal experiences with the topic.
Yes.
I wanted to just know like how personal or like how deep did you want us to kind of, you know, talk about those experiences?
Well, what happened is you must be in group 5, I'm guessing.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Correct.
So because you're in group 5 and you're going to be the first one on Tuesday, is I want to set the tone for you, because the email I sent you is much longer than the email I'm going to send to the next groups, because they're going to see what you're going to do. And if you're doing extremely well, it's going to make it a lot easier for the group after. And so to make it extremely well, you want to stay away from like a high school presentation. A high school presentation is, here's the subject, I'm going to essentially present the subject after I read Wikipedia. And so that's not bad, but it's insufficient, because these subjects, not only I want you to discover them and to introduce them to the rest of the class, number one. Number two, I also want you to analyze it and say, what can you use it for? You know, where will you use it? This is a subject that I can present in the most abstract way, or I can present it in with some examples. And these examples are examples that I can find myself with, that I relate to my own life, versus use the examples that I found by in Google, for example. Mm-hmm. So most of the time people describe. The next layer is they give examples that they found on Google. Mm-hmm. The next layer is they give examples maybe they found Google, and example that relates to themselves. That made me think 2 years ago when I did X, Y, and Z. Oh, I heard on the radio X, Y, and Z, and that was exactly a situation that is described and explained by the philosophy of epistemology. Mm-hmm. What happens, you know, it's like when you buy, I don't know, a white convertible Mazda. The week after, you see, oh my God, there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. You see them everywhere, because you have been you've been sort of a brain program to be in this mood that you're noticing them all the time. And it's sort of the same thing right now. It's like you're doing a subject on epistemology, and once you're going to read this subject, it's 100% sure that you will it's going to make you think of something.
Right.
And I'm not asking you to be Freud and tell us about something that happens to you when you were 6 years old. That's not what I'm trying to say by something personal and deep down, but by using an example of your own versus the one that you found on Google. And because what happens is the students are going to hear you talk about something that is abstract. They're going to understand it even less than you because it's abstract. So for you to make them understand what this subject is about, you're going to have to give examples, and it's the examples that they most likely are going to remember more than the complicated concept.
Of course. So,
and essentially, right now, what I'm telling you is probably what you're thinking. Oh, yes, that's what I like from a professor is when they make it realistic and simple. They simplify it by giving examples. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to go beyond the bare description, the bare definition of the concept, but also related to your own life. And then the next layer, so that's the fourth layer, is I want you to also have an opinion on it. You know, it's like if I was for you to present, I don't know, I don't want to be politically incorrect, but something to do with being a Republican. I would like you to tell me what's Republican and give examples of regulations that are more Republican than other party, and at the end give your opinion on why you think it could be worse to be a Republican or it could be better, and there could be different opinion inside the group.
Sure.
Because at the end, what's interesting is I want you to think outside, and so this subject, 99.9%, all the subject, not all, metaverse, Tesla, you heard of it. But the other one, you have never heard of it, but they're huge, like epistemology is huge. So you're going to have to tell us what you think of it. Is it dog water, or did you learn something? And so what happens is the truth, and again, that's the beauty of the Maya students, is every time they said, I didn't know the subject, but I can see how it's important. And I don't want to describe what's the subject, but why it's important in people's life once they know about it. It's another feather on your cap once you know about it. And so that's what it is. So this needs to be a personal touch, because there's your own reflection. So I'm not asking you to divulge something private and personal. That's not the idea. It's to relate it to something that you think could help you in your life to better understand something, and that's just you. Maybe because of a hobby or something that you have, or personal interest in politics or something like that, I mean, like you could use this with COVID, for example. I mean, the subject you're going to see is very interesting to help you understand some of the elements of COVID, for example. It could be. Anyway, does that make more sense now?
Yes, it definitely does. I just wanted to know kind of like how personal, or like how much you wanted us to dive in, but that was a great explanation. Now I think we have a better understanding on kind of like how to attack that part of the presentation.
So you're going to study as a subject, and then you're going to relate to you, because when you study by yourself and then talk to your group members, and then suddenly you're going to say, oh yeah, I could use this for that and that, and that's so much more interesting, because suddenly that means that you're using it, and it makes sense, and it's useful, and it's a tool. So that's what we want to hear, is the tool. Are you going to benefit from it more than anyone else, the other groups? For sure. But if you tell them how you benefit from it, there is maybe 5% chance that they will benefit from it. But if you don't say that, you don't only talk about the description, it's 0.1% that they benefit from it. So that's really what it is. And that's what I'm trying to make this class, and that's what I've successfully made this class for 10 years, is collaborative, where in fact it's not just people learning in isolation, but they're sharing this knowledge. It's like a bank of knowledge. And I remember that there was a few months ago, there was a student that was considered a really good student by all the professors and so forth. And at the end of the semester, this person came to me and said, I don't want you to share anything that I did this semester and the past semester with you, because I don't want the next Maya to learn from it. This was my work, and I don't want anybody to see it, because I want to be good in my own world. I don't want them to get any benefit from learning from anything that I did. And I was shocked, because I thought this person was so open-minded And at that moment, I just realized, wow, there's a doggy world out there and it's everywhere. And so, it's a little bit the same because the next class is entrepreneurship. And people have this perspective, and I'm not out of subject. Sometimes people think I'm out of subject, but still the same. It's marketing, and it's and people think that once you have a great idea, you should not share it with anyone, and you should keep it. And every time you want to talk to someone, you say, "I have this great idea, but I don't want to tell you because I'm worried you're going to steal it." So the rule of thumb is that people, it happens, people do steal other people's ideas, but the reality is that's 0.0001%. What's for sure is there's 99% chance the people that don't share their ID are not going to do anything with it. That's 99.999%. So which chance do you want? The 99.9% chance of not talking about it, not getting anywhere, or the 0.001% chance of talking about it that someone steal it? You can't be a business person and be absolutely risk averse. You have to be smart. You don't want to tell some ideas to the wrong people and only tell it to the wrong people. So you have to think about, what am I going to say? How much am I going to say? Who am I going to say? But it's absolutely wrong to want to try to keep everything. I tell you this, it sounds very obvious. It's like, why are you telling us that? These things were 5 years old. No, I run into this all the time with 40 years old that don't want to say anything because they think if they say anything, they're going to be stolen right away. And most of the time, I tell you something, is when people eventually trust me and they tell me what they want to do, most of the time, it's an horrible idea. And I feel so bad that they've kept this horrible idea. And my next question is, how long have you been keeping this secret idea for yourself? And oftentimes it's months and years. It's like, no, it's an horrible idea. Move on, you know. Then it's very difficult for people to judge if an idea is good or bad because I've heard some ideas that I thought were not so good that ended up being good. It's just that I've done this for such a long time that my guessing wrong, I can guess wrong, but I don't guess wrong as much as other people, I suppose, because I've done it a long time. So sometimes it's worse to find people that are like mentors that you can pitch the idea, not to listen 100% to what they say, because if you listen to too many people, you don't do anything. So sometimes you've got to do what you think you've got to do, but it's very good to have a few mentors, people that you can talk to. So in business, openness is very, very important. Being open-minded is much more important than closed-minded. It seems very obvious, but it's extremely important to bring it up. Aisha, do you have a question?
Yes, I just had a question on the Valley Hive presentation. Is that something that all the groups are doing, or is it just there as an example for us to look at as we're doing other presentations?
So all the groups are doing it, and it's the only one that the groups are doing it in private. Means you will present to me in private.
Okay.
And how can I say? Now I'm going to sound like a bad Frenchman ranting, but why I want this in private? Because you would see, I've had already some interaction with some students, and students thought I was mean. But I'm not mean, I'm collaborative. I want you to do very well, but I don't know everything. So if you don't tell me, I don't know. So you tell me, I work it out. Success, I don't like anything besides success. And that's the way I'm programmed. But that day, and I will have disclaimers, allow me to tell you what's wrong. Because it's a day where it's in private, just the groups, and it's going to be a group learning. Nobody's going to be looking good or bad. You're going to present the Valley Hive as best as you can and try to present it as if you are sort of a marketing expert. And by doing this, I will tell you, oh, this you understood, this you didn't understand, this is what you should do, this is this and that. I've done it so many times. The students go through it. It's like a boot camp. I don't know if you ever went to a boot camp. A boot camp is not smooth. So it's rough. And that's why I wanted to keep it just within the groups. That way nobody has to see what happens. And why is this? Is because there's going to be groups that have a natural marketing business instinct. And they're going to present it, and it's going to be like a commercial pitch. Beautiful. A beautiful sell of the concepts. And they are natural sellers. You know, they could be in sales. Maybe they're in sales already, or they've been all their life in sales. And these, I'm going to tell them, that was great, that was great, that was great. Please do this for Andre James. Like what you just did, that's what you need to do for Andre James. The other one that won't understand that, I'm going to tell them what they should have done in Valley High and how they should do also this for Andre James. So I can tell you that after that Saturday, everybody got a 20% improvement on how they present business pitches, because it's a massive boot camp. Doing it is super helpful. That's why I already give you the PowerPoint. I already give you the video, and it's a superbly done exercise that the students did, and it's very easy for everyone to understand the opportunity that this group brought. And that's what you have to find. You have to find this argument. You have to construct an argument. Okay, so it's in a visual group. And if you go back to the syllabus, you will see your group. You know, it's something like 9 to 9:30, 9:35 to 10:10. And every group have their own little slot. And they come at that time and they present the Valley Hive, and I tell them what's right and what's wrong and what they should have done. Does that answer, Aisha?
Oh yeah. I'm just trying to look for the area where we figure out the times.
It's inside. It says Saturday. Okay.
Because is that the February 4th? Is that the Saturday you're referring to?
Let me see, because let's see, it's the February. No, it's Saturday, 11th of February.
Okay. Okay. Oh, it's all at the bottom. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so you see it, like I said, 9 to 9:35, 9:35 to 10:10. Yeah, I was just doing by memory, but it's like this. And you do it for 15 minutes maximum, because that way I have time to give you feedback. And it works extremely well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. I'm more than happy hearing them, because I want this to be as clear as possible for everybody. I didn't see any other questions. I don't think. Any other questions? Okay, so before James comes, I want to go quickly back to where I was. So what is marketing? If there was one word that replaced marketing, it would be the word satisfaction. Marketing is really the function inside the business that is the one that cares the most about the customers. Everybody should care about the customers, but the marketer is the one probably that care the most, because their function is to constantly and more satisfy the customer. Okay, so you want to do this, but if you keep focusing on satisfying the customers, what you do is you sort of lose the sight of profit. You also want to make sure that you make some money so you can keep satisfying the customers. Every business is making profit, or at least every business that continue surviving is making profit. Some may not be making profits, but they are costing the owner or the society money, and that's wrong. Businesses should be made profitable, and that shows that they are satisfying someone, and that then you do what you want with the profit. But usually the profit, to keep the satisfaction, is really invested in the customer for their satisfaction, in order to have a long-term relationship, which means that you are not predatory. You're not trying to make profit and become as rich as you can, as fast as you can, but because in the long term, you're building a relationship with the customers. And what's very important is that there is a relationship. So to do this, you need to be oriented towards the customers. Who is the boss? The customers. What do I satisfy? Their needs. What are needs? Needs are innate, which means that you have the needs. You cannot create needs. You have the needs to drink. Then the marketer sells a different kind of drink, but they are focusing on the need of thirst. You selling, I don't know, braking system because people want to brake faster and faster, but you're selling safety. So every time you sell something, you satisfy a need. You sell entertainment. So what's the need? What is the need of music? It's entertainment. What is the need that you satisfy? Anyone knows what the need they're satisfying?
I would say that music can satisfy kind of like enjoyment or comfort in a way.
Yes, exactly. So enjoyment, there could be personal enjoyment, or there could be a group enjoyment. Like you're going you're listening to music by yourself, driving in your car, you by yourself, it's not a group thing. But you're going to a concert, maybe with several people. So there is an element which is personal, and there's an element which is social. Maybe you're making specific friends that like this kind of music. Okay, so there's all kinds of needs that you're satisfying. Maybe you said comfort. Maybe in music there is elements of comfort in the sense that there is the thing that you've listened, the thing that your family have listened, and your brother and sister have listened, the thing that are from your generation. There is definitely a generation type of sound and so forth. So there's some comfort. So there's multiple needs that you satisfy, but you can't think of, you have to think about the origin of the need again. Like a concert is a social part of it, a social need. So you have to think about the elements that can satisfy people more with this element of social. So you have to think about what you provide, which is the want, and what need that you satisfy. So just going back to the thing that everybody understands, it's simple. Is Coca-Cola, what do they provide? They provide a sweet, carbonated, flavored drink. So that's the description. The need is thirst. The want is Coke is cool. Coke is fun. Coke is easy. Coke is convenient. Coke is hype. So that's what the want is. If they stop advertising, Coke is not going to be as hype. Something else is going to be hype, which is going to advertise more. So you have to constantly work on the want, which is what marketers do, and make sure that you satisfy the needs, which the marketers don't create needs. Then you have this element of satisfaction, which is the difference between what people expect and what people received. So you expect not to be thirsty after drinking a Coke, and you drink a Coke and you're not thirsty anymore. So it works. The value is how much does it cost? What are the benefits? So it's a balance. It's like you have two sides. You have how much do I spend and how much benefits. Not enough benefits. More benefits, it's equal. More benefits than what I spend, that's even better because people buy it. So the value is measured at the time of purchase versus the satisfaction. It's measured post-purchase. So people confuse them. You could say value before you buy, value after you buy. Well, value after you buy, it's not called value after you buy, it's called satisfaction. Oh, okay. So value is before I buy and satisfaction is after I buy. Exactly. Can marketer create needs? Can they make people buy things? Well, yeah, they can make people buy things, but they don't create needs. They create wants. They make people want brands. People don't have a need for a brand, but they have a want for a brand. Okay, so that's very, very important. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Professor, I had a question.
Yes, of course.
This might be premature. We might be getting to it.
Yes,
but I was
no worries.
curious to know if, say that a company has a marketing strategy that works for them when they first start, but then as time goes on, it becomes a negative in the society that it's in. Is something that we're going to figure out is how to rebrand a company if their image was once seen as glamorous is now kind of archaic?
Oh yes, it's called positioning, repositioning. And so it's a little premature because we'll talk about this maybe in 4 weeks. But what happens is, and that's what you're going to do for Andre James, is you're going to have to think about his image and his benefits for a year, for the next year, for the next 12 months, which won't be the same, most likely not be the same, the 12 months that will follow and the next 12 months. So that's why you have to envision where he needs to be in 5 years. But then you're going to have to envision the various benefits he's going to offer in order to get there. And they won't be the same for the next 12 or 2 years that they will be in 5 years. Is you have to adapt yourself. And the reason you adapt is because you don't go after the same customers. So since you're satisfying them, you have to think about who can I satisfy right now as where I am right now. And I'm sure you all went to see to look at his social media. I mean, it's pretty close to zero, right? I mean, we all struggled getting information. I actually struggled getting information myself. And I've been looking for information and I've been asking a lot of people to give me information and nobody has had much. And eventually you got the announcement, we got some information. So of all the things, there's a huge issue of information on the artist. People think that they consume what they want. But the reality, 99.99999% of the time, people consume what they have been packaged, brainwashed to consume. There's very little, and what I'm saying to you right now is sort of insulting because I'm saying, it looks like I'm targeting you that you don't do anything that you want, but I'm not picking on you specifically. I'm just saying in general. In general, we all have a misperception of how much we have control of what we consume. We do. And so, because we don't realize, I do realize because it's my business, it's my life, how much marketing is influencing me and everybody else, because that's what I do. But most people don't know. They're just victim of this powerful hand over everyone. And the more you know marketing, the less you can be a victim. But it's very, very difficult. And in fact, not only it's difficult, but I would say it's only been worse and worse. And social media has been the miracle dreamed by every marketer in order to even more control people's brain. It's going to be like if you were a marketer in the 70s and you said, what is my dream as a marketer is to be in people's hand 20 hours a day and them looking at me. And that's your dream. And everybody would say, like, forget about it. That's a dream. You just, well, in 2020, this essentially has been going on for lots of people. So there's a big control, and you have to plan how things unfolds, and as they unfolds, you adapt, and it's called positioning, repositioning. So thank you for your question, and eventually you will have a better. At the end of this class, your question will be fully answered, and you would have a very clear view on this, because when you do the next class, entrepreneurship, we will admit that this question you don't ask because it's so clear to you, and you will run with it normally and embrace it and enjoy it as an entrepreneur working on this idea of visualizing the future and paving it your own way with your own adaptation and your own moves and strategic decisions. That's really what it's about. And you can do this for any industry, and then you will do this for the music industry, and you will thrive, and you'll see, it's like you'll see in front of you much more clearly. It's like the fog is going to dissipate, and then you're going to make your own moves, and it's going to be a turbo in your game. That's the idea.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. So now I'm going to give you my own little spiel and you're gonna have to go with it. But when you're in business, there is value that you offer, that you think is the value, and there's the value that the people perceive. What people perceive is not the same as what you perceive that you provide. So, even if we talk about the music industry, there's a car called McLaren, but maybe you don't all know what's a McLaren. So there's also another car like Nissan, and these companies, what they do when they make the car is they have people that are specialized in audio, sound. They actually measure the sound of the door, the sound the door makes when you close the door. The sound, obviously, of the engine, the sound of the exhaust, the soundproof inside the car. So all of these sounds are being measured, and they're measuring it as an engineer based on what they think is good. But the engineer is not the buyer. They also need to know what the buyer wants. So they look for what the buyer wants in terms of the exhaust notes and the sound of the engine and the sound of the door. What's a good sound? What's a bad sound? And the consumer may be totally wrong. What they may think is a good sound for the engineer, that's a bad sound, but it doesn't matter. What you do is you make it the sound that the customer wants. Because if you do this, they will see value. If you do this, they will be satisfied. If they're satisfied, they keep coming back. So for a marketer, and I'm going to say 99% of the time, doing what the customer wants is the best thing you can do. In some situation, 1%, you can actually do something that the customer don't even know that that's what they want. But that's so very, very risky. I recommend it 1% of the time, 99% of the time is give them what they want. Okay, so that's very important. So now we have this gentleman, he's living alone, he drives a motorcycle. Then he gets a girlfriend and they together, he gets a two-door. And then they get married, they get a sedan, and then they get kids, they buy a station wagon or a van. So there's this evolution. This person, you sold all of these different products because with the time, their needs, their wants has evolved. And with the evolution based on their age or their marital status or their family status, it has evolved. So you adapt. So this is, I tell you all of this because everybody understands that. But that's very important to understand that you, with the evolution of the customer, you adapt. And in fact, here is just breakfast cereal. There's not such a thing as one type of breakfast cereal. There's multiple types of breakfast cereal with multiple names, with multiple flavors, with multiple benefits, more vitamin, more minerals, more this, more that, more flavors, a bigger lion, a smaller lion, a cow, a toucan. So there's many different cartoon characters and so forth. Why? Why? It's because there's many customers and they don't all want the same thing. So you have to adapt. You have to say, who's my customer and what do they want? Well, we have a customer that doesn't like birds. Okay, so they don't like birds, so we're not going to have a bird cartoon. And what do they like is big animals. Okay, big animals, so we could do a lion. We can't do a lion because there's already a lot of lions. Can we do a cow? Well, yeah, they like the cow. And anyway, there's milk that go in the cereal, so we're going to take a cow. Let's see if they like the cow. They love the cow. Perfect, we'll take the cow. So what I'm trying to say is you have to adapt. This is the 101 because business marketing is about satisfaction. Pick one. Which one is the best? So I'm going to ask Aubrey Owell to tell us which one she thinks she would buy. Are you there? The first, so which one, the left or the right?
The left.
You buy the left. Why would you buy the left?
Because I'm a price sensitive customer, so I would definitely choose cheaper one.
Okay, so that makes sense. It's the perfect answer. Price sensitive customer will pick the cheapest one. But then it depends. Someone maybe will say, I would buy the right one because I really love to cook. So for me, it has to be the one that I can trust. The 1999, whenever I bought cheaper ones because I cook and I love cooking, it's my favorite thing, I was disappointed. I don't want to be disappointed. I want the one that I paid the right amount for the right things because I believe it's going to be better. So perceptions are very important. So that's what I'm trying to tell you is you sell value. When I keep telling you, sell value, sell value, sell value. However, it's not what you think is value, is what they perceive as value. And that's what's very interesting in marketing, is you sell people what they perceive. So if you're a singer and you make some song and the song goes boom, boom, chi-chi, boom, 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 chi-chi, boom, and you go, oh, that's beautiful. That's a perfect sound. Then you ask the customer and he goes, no, boom, boom, chi-chi. It should be boom, boom, chi-chi, boom, boom. Fine. We'll fix it. So then you're going to say, wow, this professor is telling us to make commercial music. I don't do commercial music. I'm an artist. I do my stuff. This is my gig. It's nobody else's gig than mine. Well, you should. But what I'm trying to say is not to water down, but to adjust to the customers. The closer you are to the customer, the closer you are to success. The further you are from what people want, the further you are from success. You know, there's very few things that succeed that are different from what people want. People buy what they want. But then you're going to say, but isn't that what marketing is about? Telling them what they want? Yeah, true. But the problem is that's a budget. The more you want to influence them, the more that's going to cost you. So if you can afford the Super Bowl, sell them what you want. Then they're going to buy it. If you put it in the Super Bowl, even if it's bad, even if they don't like it, they will eventually have heard enough of it that they will think that's what they want because it's repetition. That's why that's also possible. I don't deny it doesn't exist. But for most businesses, your budget is a reasonable budget, and therefore you have to focus on what you can do and what they want and who is it that they want, and then you give them what they want. And within a reasonable budget, you will generate success, and with this success, you will reinvest in your business in order to grow and eventually get more financial resources. And then you probably become in a position where you can start doing what you want and influence them because you have the power of influencing them. Someone had their hand up. Sorry, I didn't want to stop just at that moment, but they came up and down and disappeared. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. It was more just an observation, but you
No problem.
ended up going over it at the end.
Oh, I see.
Like, so as you age, I feel like, you know, when I was younger, I would go for the clearance, but now that I'm in a better financial position, we now look at things as like investments. So we do a lot of reviews and make sure that the purchase is going to be, you know, a good purchase and it's going to last us a while. So, you know, as I feel like as you evolve, as you said, like
Yes.
that your perception on what to buy changes.
Yes, so that's very true. You evolve because what happens is it's called experience, and with experience, purchase experience, you also know that things sometimes are too good to be true, and therefore they won't work. So you don't buy the 1999 because you're actually worried they won't work, and it has happened to you so many times that you don't want to take this chance. But the concept that mitigate that varies that, and you know, this is a class later, but I can speak about it right now. It's called involvement. So what happens is we have high involvement and low involvement product. So we can talk about tires, for example. That's a good example. Tires, you know, you don't drive much your car. Buying the most expensive tires maybe don't make much sense. You drive a lot your car. Buying the most expensive tires makes sense because you are involved. You're like a Uber driver or whatever. But then there's the personal factor, which is that some people, they always buy the cheapest product. They're not so brand sensitive. There's some other people that are extremely brand sensitive. They're not going to buy the most expensive product. They're going to buy the most sold brand. So the involvement is very important. There could be some people that don't drive that much, will still buy the most expensive brand because they have an involvement with their car. Their car is like themselves. It's like their body. So they need to have the most expensive thing. So they'll buy the expensive one, even though they only drive their car 1,000 miles a year. So it is complicated to explain all the facets of what we're looking at right now. And thank you for commenting. That's great. I really appreciate that. I couldn't see who was speaking. Who was speaking?
It was me,
Oh,
Shauna.
Shona. Oh, yes. Thank you, Shona, for jumping like that, because this is very true. It evolves. So there's so many facets that we could do an entire class just on all the facets of this, but I wanted to bring in here because I want you to understand what I call the reality of the game, of the business game. So business, simplify as is a game, it's a process and a way that you're gonna be making some money. Then money comes from the matching of the customer wants, needs, and what you provide them and the quality of your execution. So meeting the opportunity is very, very important. So here's this very basic example that it's maybe not understood by anyone. But what happens is I use this simple thing about the engine size, which is based on the number of pistons, let's say. So you have 2 pistons, 4 pistons, 6 pistons, 8 pistons. And what happened is there is like a price range for a 4-cylinder versus a 6 and an 8. So I created those arrows, which is like the spectrum. It starts at 28, it goes to 59. It starts at 44, it goes to over 200. So you have this price range. So what you don't want to do is to sell, it's almost like selling a big house in a poor neighborhood. You want to sell a small house in a poor neighborhood and a big house in a rich neighborhood. That's like the ultimate thing, the end of the spectrum. So it's the same thing, is to make the most profit, what you're going to try to do is to sell the 4-cylinder at the top end of the 4-cylinder price, not at the bottom end. So the 4-cylinder is going to be right on overlapping to the 6-cylinder, and the 6-cylinder is going to right overlap to the 8-cylinder. So you want to be at the top range, not the bottom. But if you want to make even more money, what you do is you work on people perception. So then I invented this term, the V Grandmaster Turbo 8. So when you sell a vehicle and you call it the V Grandmaster Turbo 8, the people, and you're going to say there's people like that, there's lots of people like that, they won't realize that the name says 8, but that doesn't mean it's got 8-cylinder, but it just sounds good. And it says V because everything is V1, V2, V6, V8, right? So it's V. So V is the selling name. You said Grandmaster because people have a little bit of ego, so you need to give it a name that sounds good. And then you call it Turbo because hopefully there is one, otherwise that would be a definite lie. And then you call it number 8 because it's a lucky number, but you never said it was an 8-cylinder. But isn't it everyone's going to think it's an 8-cylinder because you call it the V Grand Turbo 8? Of course. That's why I do it. Wow, that's manipulative. Yeah, it is, because people buy with their eyes, buys with what they guess. If it looks good, it must be good. And that's what people want. Yes.
Good morning,
Mike.
Professor.
Yes, good morning.
This reminds me of about 8 years ago, Volkswagen was marketing clean diesel. And
Yes.
they used to have an acronym called TDI. TDI,
Yes.
clean diesel.
Yes.
And you know, I work on engines, and I was like curious, what does TDI stand for? Clearly D would stand for diesel, but I did so much research online, and I could not find any information on what TDI stood for. So that's when I realized they just put together some letters because it sounds cool. TDI, clean diesel. And then the irony in this is Volkswagen got busted by the state of California.
Yes.
Because the electronic mechanism which would turn the diesel into a cleaner engine was only activated when it was under an emissions test.
Yes,
If
exactly.
it wasn't being tested, it would just be a gross polluter. So
Yeah.
fascinating. This is total manipulation.
Yes, it's very interesting.
And I'll never buy a Volkswagen, ever.
Yeah, so it's in fact, I believe it's one of, if not the largest penalty in history that a company received for
You're right.
misleading the consumers. For misleading the consumers. So it's amazing. First, it was amazing that they got caught. Then what was amazing is they were actually caught by a German, Californian law firm that caught them, that revealed this to the people. Then the government of California had to look into it. Then they went and did the research and all that. And then eventually Volkswagen lost for tens of billions of dollars.
Yep.
And they were the #1 company at the time. And then they went #2, I think, because of this. So you're right. And they were just manipulating all kinds of things. As a side note, what's interesting is that this same law firm is also right now going after a company called Pfizer and Moderna, the same company.
Wow.
For the vaccine. Yeah. So just as a side note, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's interesting. It's the same law firm. And it's a German Californian law firm. And yeah, that's interesting. So
it's also interesting because culturally, you know, when I think of products from Germany, I think, wow, very trustworthy. They're
exactly
very environmentally conscious culture and nation.
Exactly.
If you've ever lived there, if you throw out your recyclable into the wrong can, there's people that'll jump out of the weeds to tell you that you're doing something wrong.
Exactly. Isn't that amazing? So then that's what it is. You think German, engineering, and then you have a set level of expectations,
right,
of when you consume the product, and then you have bigger disappointment as if it was maybe made in some other places,
right?
And so there is this expectation. So that's 100% what I'm trying to discuss is when you sell a product, there is perceived value, and you have to understand the perceived value in order to not disappoint the customers, but at the same time, in some way, to manipulate the customer in your way, in your direction. So you don't want to do something thinking you're going to get more out of it. So now let me give you an example of the cognac industry, because I know it very well. I work. So the cognac industry is the same. Is you have a style of cognac called VS, VSOP, and XO. These are regulated. You can't cheat because it means VS is 2 years, VSOP is 4 years old, and XO it's 10 years old. So the problem with these is when you sell them, there's price bracket that everybody sells within, a little bit like the V4, the V6 I had before. So what the cognac businesses are doing is all of them are trying not to sell only VS, VSOP, and XO because you are within the price bracket. So what they do is they give names to the cognac. They call it Caractère, Noblige, Cordon Bleu, 1838. So they come up with names like this. So when people buy a cognac 1838, they don't know if it's a 2 years old, or 4 years old, or 10 years old. So it's up to the company. When they're rich, they can sell it older inside the liquid, but when times are tough, they can sell a cognac which is much less expensive inside the bottle, and nobody knows. It's much better for your cash flow to sell cognacs that nobody knows what they're really getting. Wow, is this against the consumer benefit? No, because the consumers, they can buy something that is regulated and there's no surprises. An XO is going to be 10 years old or more, always. But if you buy a cordon bleu, you have no idea if it's 2 years old, 6 years old. And don't they write it on the bottle? No, they don't write anything on the bottle. They just say it's cordon bleu, the most beautiful and the most magnificent, blah, 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 and all of this. You have no idea what it is. Interestingly, when I speak to customers and ask them, oh, you just bought this brand? Yes. The model, whatever this? Yes. How old is it? And oftentimes the people will tell you 20 years, 50 years, 60 years, as if this exists, as if they could be buying an $80, 60 years old cognac. A 60 years old cognac is probably, I don't know, $4,000. And they expect that when they spend $80, they're going to get something that's 60 years old. Good luck. They just don't know. But what happens with crafted, smart marketing, advertising, social media, you can make people dream of things that are not true and then have them consume a product that makes them believe it's something else. So it is big manipulation. It's probably wrong, but it's the way it is. So let's look at one company that's sort of doing this. It's called 20 grand vodka infused with cognac. So this product was created by people that were absolutely new in the liquor industry. And in a matter of weeks, they sold millions of these bottles. If you ask the people, what is it? Most people will think it's a cognac. And most people think it's a cognac because it's dark like a cognac. But if they really pay attention, it's actually a vodka. So what's a vodka? Well, vodka costs about $2 to make maximum. And then, but it says it's infused with cognac. Then you ask people, you know what's infusion? Infusion is like something that's really light. To make a vodka become that dark, that could never be from infusion. To be that dark is you would have to add, I don't know, 20% of cognac, maybe more, inside this bottle, versus an infusion is probably less than 1 drop. An infusion is like you go on the bottle and you just breathe over the bottle for 2 seconds. That's infusion. And so, do people know? No. But at the end, why do they drink that? To get drunk. What do they care? It's true. It's what they care. It looks good. Does it look good? The bottle looks good. Yeah. The presentation looks good. Yeah. It looks like a cognac and it's $19. I mean, you can't get a cognac for $19. I mean, why are you complaining? That looks like a cognac. It's a cognac. It's $19. It's perfect. So I wanted to show you this because it's done at every industry as this. Every industry has this kind of situation. So the idea here is that you have to understand the level of perception the consumer have of the value is extremely important. Now, I'm not going to, number one, tell you about cognac in every classes. And number two, I'm not going to tell you about manipulating and ripping off customers in every classes. Because the way I present it today, it's like to do good business, you need to manipulate and rip people off. It sounded like this. But what I was trying to do is to tell you what's going on. Let's be honest. Let's look at things eye to eye, and then you do what you want. But I don't want to tell you, here's what you do if you're a good person, and pretend that business is only good people with good intentions. I wanted to see that business is done many different ways, and the intentions are not that clear. But making money is very clear, and it's that what they try to do is make money as fast as possible. So maybe today I shocked you a little bit with my examples, and eventually you will see that I will try to, it's like an accordion. It's going to be sometimes where I'm going to be really sort of looking like manipulative, and another time where I'm going to tell you, no, you need to embrace the society and you need to be a positive person in this society, but you don't want to be blind and you don't want to be innocent. And that's why I'm bringing all of this, because I want you to see all the spectrums and all the variations, and you really see the true power of marketing that is making people do things that they should not be doing, because they are influencing them.